So I've had several requests to film this guided gratitude meditation, and some of the information that I go over or have gone over in the recent lives. So today I'm going to go over the little recipe I have for the gratitude meditation. I'm going to go into the gratitude meditation, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about our emotions, how they're tied to our needs, the feelings wheel, and Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So with this meditation, there are three important components, which I call the recipe. You want a memory of a time that you were giving to somebody that you really cared for. It could be an act of service, it could be a gesture of appreciation, it could be anything that brought you to a space in here where you felt like, oh, this feels good to do this thing for this person or follow through with this action for this person. The point of this memory is it needs to give you that little tingle in your heart, that little warm stir inside where you feel like you're connected with something. The second part of the recipe of this meditation is posture. So when we sit to meditate, we need to have a clear energy channel. So this isn't posture in the sense of muscles, or you don't want to feel like you're putting your shoulders back, or you don't really want to feel like you're engaging any particular muscle group when you sit to meditate. You want to be in your body, but you also want to feel aligned with a parallel space. So I like to think of a light about 300 feet above me, kind of coming down into my body and then going straight down into the earth and connecting my body with that energy. The reason I do that is because there's a very big difference between paying attention to your posture in a very muscular skeletal sense and then paying attention to your posture in an energetic sense. Experiment with this a little bit and you'll see what I mean. When you're sitting up straight in a very objective way where you look like you're sitting up straight, it's not the same thing as connecting with this invisible pillar of light that I talk about and letting that align your body with the space you're in. It feels very different. So experiment with that first and kind of feel into your body and see what I mean when I say a clear energetic line through the center of your body. The reason that we do this, the second part, is imagine a bent straw. You can't get any liquid out of it if it's bent. So the point of creating this alignment with the space is to allow your energy to flow as you meditate and allow movement. The third piece of this meditation is anchors. A lot of the lives I've done are more beginner's meditations, and meditating is difficult because you're sitting down to meet yourself, and a lot of people are like, oh, I can't do this right, and my mind doesn't shut up, and all these things are super normal when you're starting to meditate. Your mind does not want to sit still. Your mind is like, I have so many better things I could be doing, or you might hear yourself thinking that this is crazy or stupid, or this girl's talking about energy, she's a complete fruitcake. Your mind loves to be busy. So I like to do several anchors because it kind of tricks your mind into thinking it's busy, which is really helpful in the beginning of meditation. The goal of meditation is not to completely shut out your mind. That is impossible in beginning meditation. It's achievable, especially if you live on a mountain in a monastery and you don't have to deal with real life. That's not the majority of us. The majority of us are going to find meditation to meet ourselves and to find a sense of clarity and to find a sense of connection. It's really difficult to connect with yourself if you're berating yourself for sucking so bad at meditating, or telling yourself, I can't do this, or, I can't stop thinking. The goal is not to stop thinking. The goal is to be the witness of your thoughts or the witness of your emotions. I do pretty well with being a witness of my thoughts. Emotions I'm still working on. It's a little bit harder. That's why we'll get into how this connects with your emotions and how doing this gratitude meditation, even if 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night, will greatly improve your ability to step into the observer space, which just means allow yourself to witness your thoughts and allow yourself to witness your emotions. So for an anchor, my voice serves as an anchor as I walk you through the meditation, so that gives you an auditory. As far as visual, it's most helpful to close your eyes. Some people like to gaze down. You'll find me gaze down a lot. I'm not actually looking at anything. I'm creating kind of a panoramic view using mostly my peripheral vision, not to focus. But as you begin, I think it's important to close your eyes at first so that you don't have any visual stimulation. The breath is an anchor, so you're feeling your breath move in and out of your lungs. And I like to tell people to create a physical anchor, whether it's a mudra. You can look up mudras. You can either, I'm sure most of you have seen people do this and put their hands on their knees. I like to put my hands together and put them right in the center of my body. It helps keep me in touch with that energetic pillar, that posture that I'm attempting to maintain when I meditate. Any physical anchor, you can even use your sits bones, which are really just where your ass meets the floor, as a contact point. So physical anchors are contact points. You can use your fingertips in any mudra that you like, whatever feels comfortable. I like to use my hands as a contact point, and some people just simply use their sit bones, the contact of their body against the floor or the earth or wherever you're sitting. So those are the three portions to this meditation as far as setting it up or kind of having an idea of what you're doing before you head into the meditation. As far as using the breath as an anchor, there are a couple things I advocate for. Visualization when you're beginning to meditate is super helpful because, again, it allows you to trick your brain into thinking that it's thinking, which you are thinking to an extent. It's almost a bridge between connecting with your body in the meditation and giving your brain that opportunity to feel busy. So with the breath, I like to visualize the in-breath as filling the top lobes of my lungs, and then the lower lobes of my lungs as I inhale. And as I exhale, I envision the air leaving the lower lobes of my lungs first, and then the upper lobes of my lungs. At the end of the exhale, especially in the beginning, you want to, at the very tail end of the exhale, you want to contract your abdominal muscles kind of in and upward so that they make contact with your diaphragm. And you want to hold that for 2 to 5 seconds, depending on what's comfortable for you. The reason that I advocate for this is it's very important to exhale all of the CO2 in your lungs so that you can facilitate appropriate breathing. If you're into breath work, you'll kind of already have an idea about what I'm talking about. If you're not into breath work and you want to learn more, there's tons of YouTube videos. You can find so much information on the internet. Just be careful about what you believe that people say. Okay, so yes, on the tail end of that exhale, you want to contract those abdominal muscles in towards your body and a little bit upward so that they make contact with that diaphragm, because that diaphragm has nerve endings in it. And when you make contact with those nerve endings, it triggers the parasympathetic nervous response to release calming neurochemicals, hormones, things that are going to bring your body into a state of relaxation. I say 2 to 5 seconds. You really need to at least have 2 seconds and to sustain it for enough time to trigger that initiation. In the beginning, that's the most important. The breath is the most important to bring you to a state of relaxation. So when I begin the meditation, you might hear me reference some of the pointers, we'll just call them, that I just gave you as far as how to create a relationship with your lungs. Because that's essentially what we're doing when we meditate, where we are getting in touch with our bodies. We are facilitating a deeper relationship with every part of our body. That when you're sitting in meditation, you're aware of where your body is in space by creating that relationship with that energetic pillar and creating the proper posture. You're creating a relationship with your mind, which most of us are just in our mind most of the time, not actually having a relationship with our mind. And you create a relationship with your emotions, which is a little bit more complex, and we'll get to the information on that a little bit later. Sometimes people find that they cry when they meditate for the first few times, and they find they are averse to meditation because it brings up contact with feelings and thoughts that they don't approve of. The biggest part of what I do with my one-on-one clients and what I do with my workshops is it's self-love or self-care, but it's really meeting yourself without conditions. The majority of us have never been loved unconditionally. We've only ever been loved in a way that serves an other, whether it's our parents or friends or siblings or intimate partners. And this meditation, it's a gratitude meditation, but it's really to bring you into contact with who you truly are in a compassionate way. It's just you and your consciousness, right? So there's no judgment except your own mind. And that's what comes into play when we sit to meet ourselves, is our mind starts to go. We start to make judgments about what we're doing, that we're not being productive enough, that we might be Fruit Loop because we're engaging in something so uncomfortable. Meeting yourself is not usually anyone's favorite thing to do in the beginning, but once you work into these practices, you find that it's not so bad. Once you push through the discomfort, it becomes nice to sit with yourself. It becomes something you look forward to, which might sound a little crazy if you have an intense aversion to meditation or sitting with yourself. Okay, so we have the 3 parts of the recipe for this meditation. I like to play binaural beats when I meditate just because it synchronizes my brain waves. Usually I do use headphones, but obviously for the purposes of this video, I have something set up with a 528 hertz solfeggio frequency. You can find them on YouTube, you can find them on Spotify. I don't have Apple products, so I'm not sure about if Apple Music has them, but I'm sure you can find them. They're also another way to trick your mind into thinking it's busy when actually you're creating coherence in your brainwave function. So, without further ado, we will begin the meditation. So, find a comfy spot. Find that posture we talked about where you're connecting with that energetic pillar. Again, the visualizations help. If you can envision that light above you, kind of coming down through your body like a strong pillar, connecting with it and going into the earth. And just breathe into that space. As you connect there, take deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth, and just connect into, it's almost like rooting yourself into the ground once you get familiar with the energy. And you feel kind of powerful when you meet this energetic space. You can feel your body align with it, and you sit with it, but not to say that it might feel uncomfortable if you've never done it before, because your brain is already going to start with the judgment and the criticism, especially if you're a perfectionist, or you're an A-type, or you're somebody that really strives to be hyper-logical and rational and really values reason. This doesn't necessarily appear reasonable to yourself to sit in this position and connect with some invisible force. And so just tell your mind, like, hey, I hear ya. I appreciate what you have to say, but this is what I'm going to do right now. We'll get to whatever you want to do later. Sounds really weird to talk to yourself, but once you start creating these kind of conversations with that critical piece of your mind, it really just wants to be heard, right? And once you start to have some kind of communication, the resistance kind of disappears. The resistance is really like, our monkey minds are basically toddlers, right? And they're like, pay attention to me, I'm important, I'm important. And if you let that critical piece of you, if you validate it and say, yes, you are important. So in validating that piece, you take the resistance out, and there's a little bit less discomfort, and there's more positive energy for you to work with. So as we begin the meditation, again, you just find yourself in that space, connecting with that pillar of light. And it's also helpful to find this center space here. And when I say find, I really just mean to focus on, so to bring your attention to. Just like what I'm talking about with the pillar of light, you can't find it like you would with any of your traditional senses, touch, sight, smell. You have to find it with your body. It's a feeling. So with any of these practices and connecting with your body, if there's any aversion, just allow it. Don't resist it. Don't think you're doing something stupid. Well, you will think that, but allow yourself to think that. Don't insert resistance by creating judgments. It's funny because as I say, don't insert resistance by creating judgment, it might make it worse. So just allow yourself to be who you are right this moment. And if who you are right this moment is super critical and super judgmental of the activity, then accept it if you can. So we're going to find that energetic space, find our center, focus on our breathing. At this point, you want to find your anchor or go back to the anchor you've chosen. You're going to breathe in through your nose, nice and deep. Fill those upper lobes of those lungs. Fill the lower lobes. If you have a hard time visualizing filling the upper lobes and then the lower lobes, it might be easier to fill the lower lobes first and then fill the upper lobes. You can get a deeper breath that way. And then as you exhale, through your nose or your mouth, whatever feels most appropriate for you, you want to bring your attention to your abdominal muscles on the tail end of that exhale. And you want to bring them in and up to make contact with your diaphragm. And then begin your inhale again, filling all the lobes of those lungs. And exhale. You should really be able to feel your body by now. It might feel uncomfortable to feel your body. You might feel pain in certain areas. Pain can also be an anchor. It's a little bit more of a later meditation tool, but it can work. I got questions at the last live about how we handle pain in meditation. And the biggest benefit that we get out of meditation is learning to accept the discomfort. And so if we choose to use pain as an anchor rather than facilitate the aversion to it, it can help us get in contact with our body. The key is, if you are experiencing any pain, to not get lost in it, just take note of it, just like a thought. And even communication with that part of your body, like, I feel you, I will address you as soon as I finish this meditation. Once you feel connected to your body and your breath, I want you to go back to the memory we talked about, where you performed an act of service or extended appreciation to someone that you care deeply for. The memory really has to bring a stirring to your chest, a feeling of love. Love, appreciation, and gratitude are all words. They all point to the same thing, which is that feeling inside of heart expansion. Those little tingles or that warmth that you feel. Any memory that brings those somatic experiences will work. And as you get in touch with that memory and find that space in your heart, I want you to attempt to keep your attention there. And if your mind is busy, you can create somewhat of a cycle of attention. So you can go to this space in your heart, and then your breath, and then your physical anchor. And the space in your heart that you found, your breath, and your physical anchor. Once you've become comfortable with holding that space, I would like you to visualize shrinking your physical body down so that you can put your body into that heart space. A pool of gratitude, a pool of love, a pool of appreciation. And I want you to imagine this miniature self of yours floating around in this golden, warm space. As you become intimate with this space, if you start to lose focus, you can always return to your breath. You can return to the beginning of the meditation where you drop into your breath and you feel into your body, and then you bring the memory back. Please remember that this is a practice, just like going to the gym. If you're just starting out with meditation, it's very typical to lose focus and lose concentration. It's just like a muscle that needs to be stretched. Once you're comfortable with connecting into this space and you're able to hold your focus and attention here, you might notice that I have my hand over my heart space. I do this often when I connect with this space to keep me anchored there. I find it to be very helpful. So once you're intimate with that space, I want you to visualize the person that helped you create this space through the memory that you brought forward. And I want you to shrink that person down and invite them into this space to float with you into this warm gratitude hot tub, like Nick likes to call it, who attends the lives often. Which I really love the analogy. And as you invite this person into your heart space, I want you to attempt to expand the space just a little bit. Maybe your space is the size of a pinprick and you're struggling, and that's okay. If you're connected with that space, that's what's important here. If you don't feel it's big enough to invite someone in, that's perfectly okay as well, as long as you have found a way to connect with it, no matter how small it is. Again, the purpose is to facilitate a relationship with our body and with the feeling of gratitude or appreciation or love or kindness, whatever word resonates with you. As you become familiar with the space, either on your own or with the person or persons you've invited into the space, I want you to attempt to hold the space while also focusing on your breath. Sometimes in engaging with this practice, we can become excited with the idea of inviting someone into the space, especially if we're having difficulty with connection or feeling any sense of belonging. This This exercise can bring some excitement. If you're finding that's happening with you, you can connect back with your breath and do the exercise that I explained with your abdomen meeting your diaphragm to counteract that adrenaline release and bring forward the chemical cascade that will bring you back to a calm center. If you're finding difficulty with concentrating, again, I would like you to go back to your anchor, whether it's the mudra with your hands, or your hands in your lap, or your hand over your heart, whatever works to give you an additional focal point so that you can let your mind believe it's busy. If your mind is coming in with harsh criticism at this point, which it might be, or it might have started a while ago, again, that part of you is just looking for validation. Just say, I hear you, I see you, and I will get back to you as soon as I'm done finding this connection with myself. And you'll find that your mind will lighten up. It might lessen the intensity. It doesn't usually fully go away, kind of hangs out on the periphery, especially if you tend to be very critical of yourself or judgmental. So practicing having compassion for ourselves is being kind to the parts of us that want attention. Once you feel confident that you've been able to make this connection and move between your anchors, you might find that you're feeling really good. You might find that you can breathe easier, or alternatively, you might feel extremely frustrated, which makes perfect sense. Either feeling is okay. Just keep coming back to your anchors, your posture, and that feeling of gratitude in your heart space. If you feel you've had enough, or you feel that you can no longer sustain attempting to focus and concentrate, that's perfectly fine. It's best to ease yourself out of the meditation. I like to wiggle my hands and toes first and give myself a little shoulder roll, nice and gentle, really listening to what my body needs. And once you come out of that heart space and back into your body in a very physical way, you'll find that you might feel a little tingly, you might feel a little lightheaded. There are all different sorts of sensations. Everybody's body is different, right? So just give yourself some time to come out of that space. When we meditate, we use our bodies to enter the space of gratitude when we're doing this meditation. But we're not in our mind, and we're not entirely in our bodies. We kind of enter a different space where we can witness the mind or witness the body. So taking our time to come back into our bodies is important. Just like when you're, doing reps at the gym, right? You want to just take a second to rest when you're done with a particular exercise, and give yourself the opportunity to breathe a little bit before you transition into the next activity or the next space. It's similar with meditation. As you come out of it, you want to reconnect with your body the same way you did heading into it. And then open your eyes whenever you're ready. Take in the room around you. Just kind of get reacquainted with the physical space since you've spent some time in an energetic space. There are parts of you that are going to want to jump up and just get on to the next thing, like that was a huge waste of time. Especially, again, for the A-types or the people that are very judgmental and critical and like to have super busy minds. Everyone everyone to some extent likes to have a busy mind, whether they're focused on their problems or whether they're focused on tasks that need to be completed. Our minds just love to stay busy. So if you're very new to meditation, you will find the urge for your body to just like jump up and get out of whatever it was in touch with and focus on the real world and things that are important. Facilitating relationship with your body, your thoughts, and your emotions is the most healing thing that you can do for yourself. Your mind definitely isn't going to think it's important. And again, those feelings are okay. They make sense. The way that humans have adapted, and especially the way that culture and society influences us to believe that all that really matters is the material world. We're really conditioned to shame ourselves when we don't meet expectations, whether it's physically with our appearance, or whether it's accomplishments and what we should and shouldn't be doing, what we should and shouldn't have, right? So when we sit with ourselves and facilitate and cultivate a compassionate space to witness ourselves, our brains are not conditioned to think that that's something important to do. A lot of times when we listen to someone do a guided meditation, our mind will come in and feel like the person is a complete whack job. I've been there several times. So, but the important thing is to acknowledge that part of you that's cynical, because believe it or not, that part of you has served you in some ways. There have been situations where you're around somebody that makes you uncomfortable, just like meditation might make you uncomfortable. It's a similar feeling of discomfort, and maybe that person wasn't a safe person to be around, and that critical, judgmental part of you is essentially protecting you, right? With meditation, you're not in danger, so you can tell that part of your mind that you appreciate the ways that it protects you, but that today you're safe and you're going to take that part of you into consideration. So with this gratitude meditation, the point is obviously to facilitate and cultivate a relationship with ourselves, but it's also as much as it's important to witness our thoughts, I think that there isn't as much stress on how we can cultivate a relationship with our emotions. Humans tend to be reactive. We're not, a lot of times we're bred essentially to dismiss our emotions. Our parents will inadvertently dismiss our feelings so that they can protect us, or if they don't want us to feel pain or anger, they might divert our attention from our emotions as children, and then we grow up believing that our emotions aren't important or that they don't matter. And whether we recognize it or not, we carry that into our adult lives, right? And all of our emotions, specifically negative ones, are connected to unmet needs. When we feel positive emotions, I have this feelings wheel. It's on it's in my posts. You can find it. I think I do have it in the highlights. So most positive emotions are a result of needs being met. So when we feel valued or curious, successful, all of these things relate back to a need being met, which brings me to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I also have somewhere in my highlights and as a post on my Instagram account. In the beginning of your meditation journey, even 5 minutes a day, whether it's in the morning or in the evening, any small amount, it's like a muscle, so you're stretching it, right? As you connect more with gratitude, you'll find when you're in social situations that you're like, oh, okay, I know that's that feeling that Angel talks about in the meditation, or you'll find it easier to connect with that space inside of yourself, and you'll notice it more rather than just experiencing it in a very passive way. And as you continue doing meditations with your emotions, it creates space for response rather than reaction. And so this is the best way to start. This is with your positive emotions, which is why we enter the space through gratitude. And then eventually you can do this with negative emotions and feelings of discomfort. Creating a relationship with your emotions is what is going to give you the opportunity to create space between what's happening, where you are in relation to what's happening, and responding. When we are not aware of how we're feeling or what needs aren't being met, it's very, very easy to get lost in the feeling and therefore have a reaction, because we're moving from the feeling rather than responding as an observer of the feeling. So for example, if you're in a situation where you're anxious, if you're not familiar with that anxiety and what it feels like in the sense of sitting with it rather than just being the experiencer, it'll be really difficult for you to figure out what need isn't being met that's creating this physiological response of anxiety. But when you meditate on your emotions, you find that you're cultivating a relationship with them to the extent that you can say, oh, okay, yeah, I was at that party yesterday, like what was that all about? And you can visit the memory in retrospect, just like we did with the gratitude meditation, where you're revisiting the memory of feeling fulfilled or grateful or love or appreciation. Eventually you can come to a point where you recollect those negative emotions and you sit with them in a meditation similar to the gratitude, which is like super uncomfortable and it will definitely take some time. And in reflecting, you can find in retrospect what the need might have been that was going unmet that created this anxious physiological response. And then you'll find that the next time you enter a situation where you're feeling that same brand of anxiety, you can know, oh wait, I did that meditation, like I might know what need isn't being met. And obviously in knowing what need isn't being met, you can better advocate for yourself, whether you need to talk to somebody that is with you or just take yourself out of the situation for a minute, go to the bathroom, figure out how you can meet your needs so that this physiological response doesn't keep compounding. I got a few questions last week about anxiety, which is why I'm bringing this up as the example. Anxiety is huge in relation to unmet needs. Our bodies keep the score, and they remember everything that's happened, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. And so when we're feeling anxious, it's because there has been a pattern in the past of this need, whether we're aware or not of what it is, going unmet. And our bodies just compound that response. And the longer we ignore anxiety and its cause and the lack of meeting that need, typically it just gets worse. It doesn't dissipate. You can take medication, and I'm a nurse, I'm an RN, so I totally advocate for medication to bring you into what we call a window of tolerance so that you can sit with these emotions a little bit better in retrospect. In the beginning, sitting with our emotions is just not something we'll be able to do, but if we can recognize them, that's what's important. So with this first video, I think it's important that if you would like to facilitate and cultivate a more compassionate space within yourself so that you can be more compassionate with others, that you work with this feelings wheel a little bit. And all that means is if you're feeling something, save it in your phone, right, in the gallery or something, and you're feeling something, just pull it out and kind of read through some of these outer emotions and see what you can connect with. Get familiar with your feelings. That's really the first step to creating a compassionate relationship with yourself, is just acknowledgement, and if you can, without judgment. But not judging ourselves is probably one of the hardest things to do. So get familiar with the emotions, and if you can, or if you feel feel guided to, use the hierarchy of needs to connect with why this emotion might be surfacing. The gratitude meditation, the reason that I start off with the memory of something you've done that's kind for another is it's very difficult to hold compassion for ourselves, and it's very difficult to find a way there. If you're like me, it's much easier to express appreciation to an other or to do an act of service for another, and in that we'll find that we can connect with the feeling and enter from there. And when I have you shrink down and put yourself into that space, it's a very active way to experience your own compassion and your own gratitude. I've had many requests to post some of this information, so I'm going to do that with this video. If anyone has any questions or concerns, constructive criticism, totally open to it. Again, if you can practice this meditation for a few minutes in the morning and a few minutes at night, and if you want to take it a little bit further by experimenting with that feelings wheel and getting in touch with some of your emotions in a way that's not on the surface. I mean, a lot of us know what happy, sad, and angry are, but there are, as you can see from the wheel, many, many emotions that none of us are very familiar with. I won't say none, the majority of us. The majority of us are not familiar with. So use the meditation to find a center to start your day in the space where you have connection with yourself, and work with these emotions. And if you have any questions, or if you want to talk one-on-one or do a guided meditation one-on-one so that you can express some of your specific concerns, I'm happy to serve. The reason for doing these videos is I feel a calling to help people connect with themselves in a way that is really difficult. So appreciate that you watched the video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.